I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I've been seeing online lately. Now, I don't know if it's fake news or what it is, but people are talking about Biden and Harris had nothing to do with the fall of the economy, that it's somehow due to capitalism. And that makes absolutely no sense because in a capitalist market, there's multiple people buying or vying for your purchase, right? So because of this, a lot of people are selling the same item. Let's use eggs for example. Like there's not just one egg farm, right? In a in like a socialist or capitalist or communist country, there's like one egg farmer and you have to buy from that egg farmer. There's one baker, you have to buy from that baker. Like in war torn Germany in the 1940s, there was Volkswagen, right? Interestingly started by Porsche. The head engineer was Porsche, and people love Porsches and say whatever. But so in that kind of world and that kind of, I guess, market, if you want to call it that, or government regime, you only have a certain few options to buy, if not just one option. Like a Levi's jean is all you're going to have for jeans, or something like a Volkswagen's all you're going to have. And so they can control how much that item costs. In a capitalist market, they can't do that, right? So there's more than just one car manufacturer. There's more than one jean manufacturer. There's more than one manufacturer of any good that you can really think of. Now, Amazon has started creating monopolies like some of this stuff, and they actually got sued about that and they lost. So there are some companies that are getting big enough that they can kind of create a market of their own, and that is a monopoly, and you're not allowed to have a monopoly in this country. Now, one would argue that there are companies that do have monopolies like Microsoft and Amazon and a couple of other companies. So that right off the bat is just null and voiding what you say, because they don't want to charge the most price. They want to charge the cheapest price that they can to also make a profit. But you're the one that, everybody wants the sale, right? Everybody wants the sale. It's the same thing as the airplanes. Back in the day, way back in the day, there was a government regulation by the FAA, I believe, and it stated that every single ticket price of a plane had to be X amount. They couldn't charge anything above it. They couldn't charge anything below it. So what did they do? They started creating the best meal you've ever had on a plane. They started creating the best atmosphere that you could have on a plane, because they had to get your buy somehow, some way, because there's more than one airline at the time. There was kind of a monopoly at the time. There was only one company that could fly overseas, and then Howard Hughes came in and blah, 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 blah. They kind of made a movie about it. So there has been some monopolies, but by and large, there is multiple competitors for the same market. Like it's flying from New York to, I don't know, Cleveland, where I live, right? There's multiple airlines doing that. So they have to get you some way. So that null and voids this whole capitalism is destroying everything, blah, blah. Everybody's marking up the prices. They don't want to do that. They want to get your buy. And if they're the highest on the market and they don't have a better quality, they're not going to get your market. Now, the highest price usually goes to the best built item. Like I'm filming on a camera right now. The top of the top of the top of the Sony, which I'm shooting on a Sony right now, is going to be, they're going to charge more for that than they are going to charge for like the ZVE1. What's it, the FX3 or FX30 is like a really good cinema line camera. And I don't do a lot with cinema, so I don't really have the use for that, right? But that's going to be charged more than the one that I have now. But there are multiple competitors on the market that sell something similar to the ZVE1, and that is what drives the price down of these things. If Sony's the only one that made a comparable ZVE1, they could kind of charge whatever they wanted to if nobody else could come into the market. So it has nothing to do with capitalism. It has to do with something else. And that something else is a lot of friends coming into this country, a lot of money going out of the country for wars that we don't have anything to do with, a lot of money going out to terrorist groups in Lebanon, A lot of money. And where do you think this money's coming from? And like when you've got billions of dollars going to FEMA every year, and that money is, by their own admittance, is going to our new friends that are coming in over the border to support them. And now we don't have enough money to help the people in West North Carolina and Florida and every other hurricane that might hit this country. They've announced that they don't have enough money. Why don't they have enough money? A lot of this money, here's the thing, even these super liberals are like, I'll allow as many people as can be into this country. What does that do? That takes away a lot of jobs because they're going to take the low-end jobs and they're going to take away from U.S. citizens. They're also going to be paying we're paying their housing, we're paying their food, we're paying their medical, we're paying their food bill for some reason. Where do you think that's coming from? That's not coming from the thin air. You don't have these luxury things in New York just freely taking in these new friends that we have, right? No, that is not what's happening. What's happening is the American taxpayer is paying for this. The American taxpayer is paying for this, but they're also printing money. They're printing money to cover the bill for this. They're printing money to cover the bill for these weird money expenditures in different countries that have absolutely nothing to do with us, that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have such a weak government. What happens then? So we just print money out of thin air? No, we have to borrow money from the Fed, which ironically is not owned by the government. The Fed is backed up by the FDIC, which is a corporation, and the government is not allowed to own a corporation. So we've got the people who are printing money is owned by a few select families, and we got the FDIC backing up these few select families with our taxpayer dollars. So we got taxpayer dollars going into fund the FDIC, which is not government owned, and then we have the Fed printing money, which is also not government owned. And because of all of this, when we print money, we have to borrow that money from the Fed. And when we borrow that money, an interest charge is put onto that. And the more we print, the less the dollar actually buys, because there's more dollars in the circulation, because it's not backed up by anything like it used to be, like gold. So now we have money that's not backed up by anything, so you can print as much as you possibly can because it's not backed up by anything. And we got the taxpayer going towards interest that's being, on printing this money. So we got so many things going on. So we got money going to feed and house these people, these new friends who have come into the country illegally. We've got money being borrowed to pay for this, to pay for other countries doing things that have absolutely nothing to do with us. And we have money being printed to go to Hezbollah and Lebanon. We've got billions of dollars of equipment being left in the Middle East when we pull out with absolutely no plan. We have so many things going on right now, and people who want to allow illegals to come into this country, where do you think that money is going to come from to pay for these people? Us also going to take away our jobs. It's also taking away our housing. We already don't have enough housing in this country. So because of that, what happens to the price of housing? The price of housing goes up because we don't have enough housing for the people that are already in this country. And now we got all these new friends coming into the country, taking up the housing, the cheap housing, or just by force in like Aurora. And so what does that do? That displaces the people that were living there. So now there's no housing for the people living here, and there's not enough housing. So what happens? Supply demand comes into play. And that's where everybody's like, well, capitalism fails there. No, it's kind of like if you, everybody wants this socialist idea, right? So say that you were a 4-point whatever student at whatever school, right? And you studied your ass off and you went and you got your 4-point whatever GPA. And then the government said, well, congrats, you did a lot of work on that, but we're going to be taking like two GPAs away from you, and we're going to be giving them to people who didn't do anything at all. That is socialist right there, right? So you can go work as hard as you can. The American dream dies at socialist because the amount of work that you put in no longer benefits you. It benefits everybody in the community. And everybody thinks that that sounds great until everybody's broke, and everybody is in Venezuela is a prime example of this. Everybody in Venezuela, they don't even have bread anymore. They're barely food. So what these people, they're sending these criminals from Venezuela, so there's more food to eat in Venezuela into our country. There's like 500,000 illegal criminals being released into this country, into the areas, larger areas, but not all the time. Look at Springfield, Ohio, only 50,000 population, and 32,000 Haitians added under some new kind of law that they just passed, that they're trying to make it look like was always there. It's ridiculous. So we got so many things going on right now. We got our new friends coming in, taking the housing that you could have bought, but you can't buy now because the illegals are in it. And by the way, that illegal is living there for free where you would have had to pay for it. So And why would this luxury whatever in New York wants you to take it? Because you're suspect. You might lapse. You might not pay a month. Whereas as the government's already given them the money, so they don't want you anymore. They want these illegals in there, and the government's footing that bill. But the government doesn't have any money. The government has our money. So when we give our money to the government and they're doing stuff like this, that raises inflation because everything that's going on. And when inflation goes up. This is inflation. Inflation is everything that I just described. That turns that same set of eggs, I guess, was $4.50 like 2 weeks ago, and they're almost $10 for 18. That is what happens. That is what you're voting for. This is Bidenomics, 100%. And Harris said that she likes Bidenomics, that she wouldn't change anything that these two have done over this last 3.5, almost 4 years now. So that is what you're voting for. You're voting for people allowing this border. The borders are, Harris has not stopped any of these illegals coming in. She's actually welcoming it. She can't answer any question on policy, so she's just going to copy and paste what Biden has already done. And this is what you're voting for. You're voting for Bidenomics to continue, probably even worse because she's even dumber than he is. She's probably the dumbest person I've ever seen doing any kind of work whatsoever, and she really didn't do a whole lot of work to get where she is at if you really look at her history, and I'm not going to cover that probably on this channel. This is what you are dealing with. You are dealing with inflation at the worst level I think this country has ever seen. I didn't look into if it is the worst, but we're talking like 30-40% here. It's something like $150,000 a year you got to make to buy the same house that you would have had to make like 75 or 80,000 back in 2020. That is inflation. That is what's causing all of these issues that we got going on. We got supply and demand issues going on. We've got, and then also another thing, and this would probably be the last thing that I cover in this video, they offshored most of our energy. So now most of our natural gas and whatever else that we've got energy-wise is coming in from other countries, and we got to pay for that extra service. We got to get it here. Where we could just drill here, pay American jobs to do that and employ people, but we're not doing that. We got rid of a lot of those jobs and we offshored it. And then another thing that they got going on that I didn't even plan on covering is these electronic vehicles. We don't make enough electricity for what we even have. We're already buying electric power from other countries like Canada, China, and a couple other countries to supply the amount of electricity that we already need because of a lot of the EPA things that were passed were totally bogus. And even if they weren't, China doesn't care about the EPA. China is just pouring they don't filter anything. They don't care about their people at all. Look at how dirty it is over there. So we're buying electric from a country that does not care about the environment at all in the name of saving the environment in this country. It's so ridiculous. We're trying to save the environment in this country by making it worse in China, and you think that that's just going to stay in China? No. It's like the butterfly effect. When they create pollution in their country, that pollution is going to come to our country or whatever other country is in this globe or dome that we're in. So now we got people in California being forced to buy electronic vehicles that they don't even have enough electricity to make, and they got brownouts and blackouts happening all the time because they're out of electricity. That's raising huge amounts of energy costs right there. It's a hot mess. And these people, people can't even afford their groceries, yet they're supposed to buy a $75,000 Tesla and then pay extra electric to run that Tesla in their car or in their house. Not to mention the fact that these electronic vehicles die in the winter. Have you ever seen roads during like a snowstorm? The batteries die. Have you ever had, I don't have a phone on me. Have you ever had your phone just die on you when it was cold outside? Yes, everybody has. I've got a GoPro over here. That thing dies, the battery on that thing dies at like 40 degrees. I mean, that's the most ridiculous battery I've ever seen. This is what we've got going on in this country. This is what's raising the prices. It has nothing to do with capitalism. Capitalism wants to lower the prices because there's competition for your buying power. If there wasn't competition for your buying power, like in a socialist and a communist country, they could do whatever they wanted to. And they control all of supply and demand, and we're seeing that in other socialist and communist countries. There's so many things that these people can't even get anymore, like bread. So this is what you're fighting for. You're fighting for a socialist country that's going to take away everything that you have. That American dream is going to be gone. And we're going to have just single country. I mean, we already kind of have this going on, right? There's like 10 corporations that run almost all business. I mean, just look at Disney, for example. They own GoPro. They own half the networks out there. They own so many things that you don't even think about. Another company that owns a lot of things that people don't think about is Philip Morris, the old cigarette company. They thought, everybody's like, well, we'll go after them because they're killing people. They're smarter than you. They went and bought half of the food industry, if not more than half of the food industry, because they were sitting on a lot of cash. So they control the food market. And so we kind of already have this happening right now, and we're seeing that, and they can control it, and they can blow up food distribution plants. They don't care. I mean, it was like 150 food distribution plants that magically blew up or went on fire or plane crashed into them last year. That's never happened before. So it is kind of turning into that, and people are voting for that, and people are so busy watching whatever that they're not even paying attention to what's actually going on in this country anymore. The only ones that are aware of this are people who come into or who are those who are intelligent, or I don't even want to say intelligent, because people who go to school are oblivious to this. Those who have common sense, and those who are coming in here from other countries that are socialist and communist. They see it. That Park lady from North Korea that comes in here and is like, yeah, I'm seeing this turning into North Korea. This is what's happening right now. This is what is going on right now. And if you want this to continue, vote for these idiots, the Bidenomics, that she said she's perfectly happy with everything that's happened in this last 4 years, and she wouldn't change a thing. That's what you're voting for. Anyway, that is the end of the video. A lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Capitalism has nothing to do with this, what's going on right now. Anyway, comments, questions down below. Like, subscribe, and talk to you in the next one.